Here's a review on maybe the last Killer Instinct Pro to ever ship from Arcade1up. I'll let you know in this video what number this one is out of the 500. Not sure if they ship them in order, but I ordered it about 10-11 days ago, and now if you go on Arcade1up, completely sold out. Is it worth the hefty price I paid? I'll answer that in the review. Also, take in mind that if these are really sold out and you see one secondhand on Marketplace, on eBay, is it worth picking up? I'll point out some of the pros, some of the cons in my review of KI Pro. Just wanted to start off with a couple of shots outside the box and then unboxing a little bit. See how it's packaged? Here's the front side. Get our first look inside the box. Okay, everything's blue. So Dragon's Lair it's all black boxes. KI Pro has that kind of light blue. This is 421 of 500. Now this was one of the heaviest boxes I've ever lifted from Arcade1up, and I just want to show you that if you just unpack it, if you have this delivered and you don't want to Hercules your way through your home, try to hustle this around, it's going to be a lot easier to just unpack these. This box is pretty heavy with all the wood. Second heaviest is the monitor and marquee, probably 30, maybe 40 pounds. And all the wood, because it's so awkward and the box is going to bend on you, might be up in the 45 range. The stool was pretty light, and then the speakers, control deck, and molded coin door, a light box, and of course the fatigue mat and the tin sign. So just kind of a perspective on what to expect. I'm going to open up the instructions and let's put KI Pro together, number 421. And the unboxing was a treat of its own. I mean, look at the speakers, the functioning coin door, our first look of the control deck, the thickness of these panels, plus that chrome finish. You can see it on every piece that's going to be on the outside walls of the cabinet. The buttons, the joysticks, the monitor before we took off the cellophane, the back side with the PCB. The thickness of the top. I mean, just everything is a step up. The marquee. The light is pretty similar to what we get in all of the hardware that we needed for the build, except for this one. All in all, I'd have to say this went together pretty good. A 19-inch BOE monitor, a control deck that is just so much bigger on a two-player than what I'm used to. The front with the KI, how much thicker that is, and of course, those molded coin doors that actually function. Plus you get the chrome. This was probably the first Arcade1up chrome logo we got. And of course, one full piece with the chrome T-molding that just lines up perfectly throughout the entire cabinet. This was one of the first cabinets that actually came with those screw cap covers without having to buy them from a third-party seller. You get the ends here for your control deck and that seam line. So just a custom that any XL or Deluxe you put together, you know, when the bottom meets the top, you're always going to see that line. There's really no way to get around from that. During the unboxing and build, I noticed that everything was pretty much a step up from what I'm used to. You have an extra power source for your Yamaha speakers. Comes with an extra cord that kind of meets up with everything as you work your way to the PCB. Just the back side of the monitor. Might have called it a BOE. Might not be a BOE actually, but it is a 19-inch screen and everything works its way down to an extra cord that functions not only lighting up the coin doors, but continuing in gameplay. Pretty much the standard Wi-Fi antenna, the antenna you would expect from any other Arcade1up. I did connect pretty easy. I was able to actually go 3 digits, unlike 4 with newer Arcade1up, so I did go a PD7. And I do want to note that it was a little tight because of this, being able to reach to the control deck, which allows you, again, to continue or to add credits in gameplay, kind of giving you that arcade feel. It was tough connecting that with the other two. You didn't have a lot of room, so you're kind of feeling around in the dark, having the control deck so close. Kind of probably the toughest part of the build besides sliding the two ends together these were pretty easy tightening in, but just lining everything up, because the last thing I wanted to do was mess up any of that chrome T-molding. And this comes in right at 67.5 inches tall. And in comparison with Time Crisis, which is by far the tallest Arcade1up cabinet, along with it is on a little bit of a riser booster, it lines up pretty good though. I mean, you could have a Ki Pro, an XL, right next to, you know, something like Time Crisis, something like Big Blue, even with a riser booster. It just, you know, it kind of gives that real feel to that Marquee. I mean, look at the size, the height on Ki Pro. This was one of the big selling points for me, having a cabinet, you know, as close to a full size as I possibly could. And the length of the cabinet comes out 25.25 inches. Now, most Arcade1ups are about 19, maybe 20 inches wide on a 2-player control deck. This is sitting at 23.25, the largest, widest 2-player deck I've ever seen. I always say it's, you know, a 4-player control deck is perfect for 2 players. This is the closest thing. Room-wise, you could get 2 grown adults to play side by side, but definitely impressed with the size of this deck. When I was assembling this and I built the bottom base, I said, this control deck is gonna be at a perfect height. Look at this, it sits right at 40 inches. And it does, you can see it goes up, it works its way up. But what a perfect height. They're like, there's, you know, for an average person, I'm about 5'9". And if you're about 6 foot, this would be perfect. Any taller, I mean, yeah, you might have to do something to raise it, but 40 inches, I wanna say that the Ki 3/4 was about 40 inches also. So both control deck heights, very similar. It's just this one is such a step up. Corner to corner, we are right at 19 inches, like perfectly. I think the Marquee's okay. I don't think it's perfect. I was kind of planning on having this kind of neutral feeling for the Marquee. I've seen enough. I've seen it behind Michael B in his live streams that, you know that if you got one from Sabos, it's going to be just a little bit. You're probably not going to get this. You kind of see a little bit of the lights bleeding through. It's going to be more, as you can see, the top, the black would just go across. Plus you'd get the Nintendo logos. You'd have other theming than just the Killer Instinct, the Rare logo. This is exactly the same design as we got with the 3/4. Not too thrilled about this, for the price of this. I get not having the Nintendo, but the Marquee is not exactly perfect. I don't know if I'll change it, but I just, there are going to be some cons. It's not a perfect cabinet. The Marquee's about 5 1/8, 5 1/4, and I'm going to guess it's going to come out very similar to that control deck. Well, where is that? We're at 21 inches across and 5 1/8, 5 1/4 height-wise. Yes, you're going to see a lot of Battletoads. This is my favorite game on here. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'm a huge beat-em-up fan. One of the reasons I bought Killer Instinct 3/4. I bought it for Battletoads, sold it because I wanted Ki Pro, which I want to play Battletoads. When I fired this up the first time, I was so happy to have Battletoads again. The speakers are unlike any speaker I've ever gotten from Arcade1up. I'm going to crank the volume. That is the loudest I've ever heard the speakers go. I have been keeping this at volume 2 this entire time. Unbelievable sound. I don't know if I recommend having it at 15 all the time, but that was loud. It was just like putting those big speakers, subwoofers in your trunk back in the day, and just like, that was incredible. I do want to talk about the controls. Now we have the deck protector here, and there's cases where, out of the box, you're worried about cracks. I have a pretty strong feeling that this was one of the very last Arcade1up cabinets, if not the last one. I can't confirm that, sitting at number 421 out of 500. I don't know if there were 500 boxes all lined up like they knew, which box was 86, which box was 213. But, I was afraid of any mishaps because not sure how much, spare parts they have on something that was a limited quantity of only 500 made. heard a lot of stories on the control deck, the sticks. And, before I plugged it in, before I set it up, I went up to it. I've spent a lot of time at free play arcades lately, and feel-wise, this is exactly how, the bat top, the joystick would feel. It has that no other cabinet has. But, maybe a little clickiness. Maybe it's not true, and I understand why people have changed these. But I'm pretty happy with it. I'm happy with the buttons. These are nothing like Arcade1up buttons we've ever gotten. Everything on here, the switches for the volume and the power are going to be the same as any other Arcade1up, but the live button, the player 1, player 2, and all the controls, definitely a step up. Nothing that I personally will have to change. Maybe you can't pull off certain moves on Killer Instinct, but for me, majority of the time playing this, 99% of the time will be Battletoads, and as long as I can side scroll, I guess I'll be okay. Now every time I put together an Arcade1up and I go up to the molded coin door, I always try to press it. And look, listen to that. It just gives us the credits. We get in player 2. This is incredible having this feature. And I was a little worried because I just didn't feel that the cord that plugged into here, that reached up to the control deck, was long enough to get everything else to plug in the back. How much of a struggle it is to begin with. But it works perfectly. And it presses in. It's just every time, like, I'll go up to my molded coin doors and, nothing happens. But at least with KI Pro, they function. This is actually, so I'm continuing by pressing the coin door. This is the first time I played Battletoads on KI Pro. It hurts selling the 3/4 scale. I've given reasons why I had decided to part with that cab. There was at the time, a lot of memories with that certain cabinet, but whatever I did to it, I just never felt like what I could get with this cabinet. And I'm not saying this is a perfect cabinet by any means, but it's the closest thing to, a full size, first of all, that I can get on the second floor in this room. And, control-wise, just for everything out of the box, I don't think I was going to get that, no matter what I did with my original Killer Instinct. So I was just, pretty excited to have this and to finally play Battletoads again. It's probably been about 2 months since I parted with it, and, I didn't want to not have this game, and if I would have waited a little bit longer, they would have all sold out, and, I don't know what I would have done. I might have actually had to buy another 3/4 scale again. Just remembered it's an IPS monitor. It's not a TN, it's not a BOE, and there is absolutely no bad angle on the right-hand side, in the center, or on the left. This functions the same way as any other Arcade1up with online capability. If you hit the live button, the menu pops up. You go down to leave game, and it takes us right back to the main menu, which is identical to how the 3/4 scale KI looks. So if you have the Pro, if you have the 3/4 scale, everything here is exactly the same, even the music. Now I do want to mention that when I did power this on, I had an update available, and once I ran that through, I was able to go in for spectate. There was something I had to do in settings when I originally had spectate on here. I think I had to go to a favorites, and I probably didn't even go to the right menu here, but I had to go in here and enter a favorite. And once I did that, I think it was powering off, and then all of a sudden an update would come and it gave me the spectate. Well, I didn't have to do that this time, and I might not even be explaining this correctly. I was actually going to rewatch, I believe it was P-Dub's video on how to get that spectate, but it automatically came on there, so it was pretty cool. And I have watched a couple of spectates since I powered this on and set it up. Unfortunately, there is nobody in the lobby right now. I'm not the greatest KI player, but I will give you my opinion on how the controls handle. You know, it's easy to play Battletoads. It's just a side-scrolling beat 'em up. We'll see if I can pull off anything with these sticks, which I've heard a lot of complaints about. Being such a recreational player, I don't notice anything different. You would have to probably be, even though I lost, you'd probably you'd have to be a real extreme gamer here to notice anything, but the sticks feel pretty good to me. And the buttons too. Yes, I am a button smasher, or masher. You do get this nice Arcade1up chrome logo right here. It does come out. You don't see that on any other. You see it on the molded coin doors, but as far as on the monitor, it's the only one that has it. Now look at the monitor. This is probably the biggest thing that disappoints me about this cabinet is you have all of this real estate. There's no theming, it's black. For the price of this, I wish they would have just filled the whole screen. If this, you know, I mean, I understand that you got to have an Arcade1up logo here. Like they could have put it somewhere else and just given us an entire monitor for the price of this cabinet. You know, a lot of XLs, I mean, you know, we're used to the 19-inch screens, but you're giving us a Pro Series. I think this should have been the biggest possible monitor they could have done. Along with the Marquee, it's the little things. But other than that, the Marquee and just giving us a bigger monitor, you don't have the light up control deck. You have that with the 3/4 scale. And I always made that point that when I did another mod, when I kind of justified something on my first KI that at least this has the light up. Well, this one doesn't. It's not something that I have lit up when I play. It's just, you know, when it's kind of sitting there idling and, you know, you turn it on, it's just a nice look. It's something extra with that cabinet, but it's not really a game changer for me. But I just want to point out that that's the difference as far as besides the controls. You don't have that light up monitor. This is totally a step up right here than the original, which is just basically, you know, just something flimsy. I mean, this is an actual thick piece of MDF board. I mean, it's night and day difference. Of course, the coin doors we talked about, the controls, but the monitor, if they could have just filled that out, I think this would have been probably worth the money. I mean, the Marquee's the Marquee. We can always, that's an easy change. And I know we could change out the monitor too, but for that price, I expect the monitor to be bigger. Well, the moment of truth, is this cabinet worth $9.99? I don't believe so. They sold out at $9.99. I picked it up for $9.99. But I think that there's things they could have done to kind of justify that price. You are paying for other things, not just the cabinet. There's other things that came with this, whether that's important. You know, when I look at something like the Simpsons that came with a tin sign and a stool, I bought my Simpsons for $1.99. Now they're asking $4.99 to $6.99 for that cabinet because they're giving us a stool and a tin sign. Same with KI. We got a stool, a sign, and a mat. To add all this together, does it still equal the $9.99? I think this should have been $7.99, and if they would have given us a bigger monitor, maybe just improve this just a little bit, $8.99. And you know, if you could just take the sign, the mat, and the stool away and just go straight across the board, $6.99, $7.99, I think this would have been a hit. I suppose if you could pick this up on Marketplace for around $500, I think it would be well worth it. For everything that we've seen, a used cabinet, because if they're completely sold out now and you're not going to be able to pay $1,000 for this, and people are starting to kind of lose hope, sell their cabinets off, I think this is worth 500, and that's I can't speak brand new because there's none left. So if you're kind of on the hunt for, I missed out on KI, because I suppose that if I would have missed out on this, Marketplace would have been my option, because I don't know if I would have went after the 3/4 scale again. So my advice to anyone looking for KI Pro, used is obviously our only bet at this point, and I think $500 is worth the price. And that's, I guess, what I'm going to end the review with, instead of, is this worth 1,000? Because that's yesterday's news. I think 500 for a used cab, I'd take advantage of it. I want to thank everybody for watching. We'll see you online playing Battletoads. Looking forward to it. It's one of my favorite beat 'em ups, and the reason I bought this. I wish Golden TXL was everything KI Pro was. For the price point of 1,000 to the $699 that I paid for this, does it cost that much more for upgraded speakers, a better monitor, screw caps, chrome T-molding, and functional coin doors? I'm not sure. I still think it's a little high, but I do want to point out that every XL, and I love my Golden T, it's my second Arcade1up, it does fall short of KI Pro. Same goes for Pac-Man 2. It's not what we got with KI Pro. It's a great cabinet, it's a great XL. My fear is Shack Jam isn't either. And it's a shame that, you know, all the XLs that they've given us, only one has come through, but the downside is it costs that hefty price. Pac-Man was cheaper than Golden T, it was $599. Some people may have even gotten it for cheaper, but it's not exactly everything. I mean, just the controls alone, it's not a true Pro Series. I guess you get what you pay for. There's just nothing like KI Pro.